What's up, everybody? Welcome to Chicken Dinner Live, the second edition on this Thursday night, or on Thursday nights for that matter. We're going to try and do 7 o'clock Eastern basically every week, leading you into Thursday night football. We got a big game tonight between the Bills and the Dolphins, and I know that my two guests have crunched the numbers on both teams, on every player. I know you all love your anytime touchdown bets. Maybe one of us bet Keon Coleman a couple times. And maybe I bet him at 15-1 to be the first touchdown scorer. But these guys, Brian Beachkofski and Corbie Craig, are so smart. Say hi to Clyde the cat, who also likes to gamble and apparently wants to join the show today. But we're going to put him down because we got business to attend to. We've talked about the plan here. We're going to do this basically every single week on Thursday. If you miss it, don't worry. If you miss it live on YouTube and on Twitter, you can catch it on Apple, Spotify, basically wherever you catch your podcasts. And at 7:15, the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer of Rhythm, will join us. It's basically, how did I put it in Vegas? The sports betting tool belt. It's an AI modeling platform that allows you to build your own models and formulas, make your own sliders, and determine what's important to you. So we'll talk to Brian about how it was built, how it's grown, and they're taking in some nice money from some big investors. It's good to see a company like Rhythm start from the ground and rise up. At 7:30, we'll talk to Corbie Craig, who I call the boss at Get Better Odds. He's really a professional calculator. This guy does mostly his own modeling. So if you're a numbers person, today is going to be your show, but we will get to my bets in just a second. Corbie at betterodds.co. I also, if you've missed the show yet, we have to talk about quickly BetQL Daily, which has been so much fun to do, and your feedback has been amazing. This is the show with Joe Ostrowski and myself. It is weekday mornings, 9 a to 12 p. Joe and I launched Chicken Dinner together in 2016, and Mitch Rosen, Andrew Williams at Odyssey and BetQL put us back together. And the feedback has been so cool. We had GRP, the legend, on yesterday, which somehow had 900 live views on Twitter. That show is worth getting up in the morning for, that's for sure. And there's a lot of shows right now in the space that don't talk about betting in the morning. We talk about betting in the morning, including contest plays, including Survivor. So if you haven't seen that show yet, you got to check it out. Odyssey app. It's also available on Apple and Spotify. You search for BetQL Daily. That's the morning show. And that's basically all the things we have to get out of the way before we talk about the week's card. And those of you that have followed me for a long time, I put up plays on Twitter at chickenxdinner. And during football season, usually the plays go up Thursday night, Friday morning. So when you see an obscure college game come up on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, those of you in the know that you got to get down. And they're mostly injury related. So here's why we made this bet on Utah State on Tuesday at plus 20.5. And if you were watching the show on Odyssey, it was 21.5. And we were betting it live down through the 21. I can't exactly tweet and talk at the same time. I'm not that talented. I still don't know how to work Instagram. I'm trying to figure everything out. But we heard on Tuesday that Cam Rising was probably not going to play. And of course, this is not public. And as we get closer to Thursday, the line starts to tickle down. We're talking, the 21s become 20.5s, become 20s, become 19.5s. And then this morning, what happens? The report comes out that Cam Rising is unlikely to play. He is the 17th year quarterback at Utah. He's been there since like 2004, it feels like, which would be more than 17, but he's been there forever. The backup is a true freshman who has no experience. And now he has to go on the road and deliver a win for Utah. But there's a huge drop-off between Cam Rising and between the freshmen. So I knew the line was going to move. And that's why we share with you. Take Utah State plus 20.5. Well, have you looked at the board recently? I mean, this thing isn't even close. This is a number that's now 18 in the market. I got to find my my odds screen here. Remember, one-man band here. This is Utah State. Right here on the top. Look at this. Pinnacle at 18. Circa at 18. Superbook at 18. South Point at 18. Then you got the sharp shops over here, 411 Buckeye, Bet Online, basically are on the same. And look, just because we moved the line from 21 to 20 and a half to 18 doesn't mean it's going to win. Let's understand that. This is not a victory lap. We did our jobs though. And now Utah State has to do theirs. And if you have that bet, maybe don't look at what Utah State did last week against USC. It was a complete blowout. But USC has much better athletes and higher octane talent than Utah does. Utah is the type of team that is going to try and win a game without Cam Rising 24-7. We'll still sweat. It's not cashed, but I'm promising you, if you can make these bets at plus 21, if you watch the show live on Odyssey, or you bet plus 20 and a half, and the game is sitting 18 on Thursday, still might come down a bit. There will be resistance, obviously. People will come in and they'll lay 17, maybe 17 and a half, because it's a good number. And wise guys come in on both sides of a number. You know, wise guys took 21 and a half, 21. Other wise guys will lay 17. It's the way it goes as the board lights up. I love looking at this OzLogic screen. But that's why we bet Utah State on Tuesday. So if you follow the Twitter page, they come right to you. And I was happy to give Utah State plus 20 and a half. Look, we're going to win picks and lose picks. That's how it goes. Somebody said to me the other day, nice fucking pick on the Titans. What do you want me to do? Give you a Titans team that's up 17-0. They don't give up an offensive touchdown and lose 24-17. That's your response? You're mad at me? Be mad at Will Levis. Look, we're going to win and we're going to lose. That's part of the game. And so far this season, the picks are 8-4, which I would argue ain't too bad. I also have to address Michigan. Michigan last week, I said, hey, bet Michigan, 7.5. It's a good number. I would still argue it's a good number. Michigan loses the turnover battle 3-0. Texas is awesome too. I mean, I upgraded Texas. I downgraded Michigan, obviously, because their offense is a problem. But you turn the ball over 3 times. A turnover to me, which Kenny White taught me a long time ago, is worth 4 points. So 3 turnovers times 4 points a turnover is 12 points. Texas won by 19. What's 19 minus 12? 7. So, look, that's a bet. You don't want to hear this? I would make that bet again tomorrow. Plus 7.5. At home with the Big Ten defense, I would do it. Maybe you wouldn't, but I would do it. So I mentioned Utah State. I'm going to zip through these, and then we'll get to Brian Beachkofski from Rhythm. Here we go. Some of you probably right now are like, this guy in Michigan. Did he go to Michigan? No, I didn't. I don't even like Michigan. But if you're looking at a team that in the summer was minus 30 against Arkansas State and is now minus 23, this would be the time. Some of you play stocks. Would you lay 23 when you had to lay 30 in the summer? This is the game. You know what's coming. You don't want to do it, but you know it. Michigan's going to win 38-6. And you're going to go, oh, I knew that was going to happen. I just couldn't pull the trigger, which I understand. I understand you don't want to bet Michigan minus 23. Got on you. That's fine. I did it. And I think it's going to get to 24, at which point it becomes a different conversation, because those numbers, the 14s, the 17s, the 21s, the 24s, they're all unique in their own way. What happens if it's 34-10 and you're laying 24? You're going to watch that game for 3.5 hours and tie, which is the worst. I know a couple guys go, I'd rather lose than tie. I laid 23. You can still lay 23. Indiana, minus 3 at UCLA. I've raised Indiana a lot this year. And not because they've beaten bad teams. They were up the other night. I was flying to Vegas. They were up 77-3 on Western Illinois. That's not why I'm betting Indiana against UCLA, but I think their speed and their talent hasn't been this great in a while. Indiana is usually a middle-of-the-pack team, and they still relatively are in the Big Ten, but not in terms of talent. Their offense is very, very underrated. And I think their coach is very solid and is a much better coach than Deshaun Foster, the head man at UCLA, who was barely able to put away Hawaii. Again, individual games to me don't matter that much, but some of the decisions I saw from Foster in that game, problematic. 4th and 1 at midfield, punt. 4th and 2 at the 30, field goal. What are we doing? You got to go for these. Analytics prove that you have to be aggressive, and he just doesn't appear to be a guy that can make the right decisions. So when you look at an Indiana team that has upgraded all the way to a 3-point favorite at UCLA, that over adjustment speaks volumes to me. When people on paper go, well, Indiana, they're laying 3 at UCLA, take the name off the front of the jersey. It's a different conversation. But because it's Indiana, you don't want to bet Indiana. I'm telling you, I think Indiana is going to win this game by 10 plus. My numbers have it Indiana 7.8. So, yeah, I was going to lay 3 no matter what. A couple more quick ones. Wyoming is getting 11.5. Not sure what I'm missing here. The summer line was BYU -2. And BYU had a nice win against SMU. It was an ugly game. But now BYU's got to go on the road into Laramie, which is never an easy place to play. And this market opened 8. When this opened up on Sunday, BYU -8. Now we're at 11.5. So we've gone from 1.5, 2 in the summer to 8 on Sunday to 11.5. I can assure you no wise guys are going to lay 11.5 on BYU. Those numbers have all been pumped. I mean, they pumped it from 8 through 10 and maybe even at 11. Some guys will lay 11. They're not going to lay 11.5. The buy point was probably 10, 10.5. It's just too far. It's gone way too far. Again, buy low, sell high. This would be the time at 11.5 to sell BYU. In turn, buy the dog at home, Wyoming. I wrote this story for Fox. I know a lot of you want to get involved in Mahomes against Burrow. If you want to read the story, it'll be right here on foxsports.com. Be happy if you check it out. There it is right there. So there's a couple things in this game that stand out. The Bengals have been brutal weeks 1 and 2 with Burrow. Brutal. In fact, since Burrow's been the quarterback in Cincinnati, they are 1-8 straight up in weeks 1 and 2. That's alarming, right? That's alarming. But it's different heading into this weekend because now the Bengals are in a dog roll and a bigger dog roll than they usually are against Kansas City. We've seen them +2.5. We've seen them +3.5. Now they're at that buy point, to me, at +6. Yes, they lost in Survivor. Somebody tweeted at me today, you like the Bengals? They just lost to the Patriots. Are you telling me that the Bengals are now worse than the Patriots because the Patriots beat the Bengals one time? That's not how it works. And Joe Burrow, look at his numbers against the Chiefs. Small sample size, 3-1 straight up, 3-1 ATS, 9 touchdowns, 3 picks. And Jamar Chase absolutely slices Kansas City. There was a game a couple of years ago. He had like 266 receiving yards. I don't know what it is about the Bengals against the Chiefs. When Burrow's healthy, they play him tight. There was a game last year, Jake Browning played. They lost 25-17. Some of you might remember. That was the game that Harrison Butker had like 5 or 6 field goals to cover the number. It was infuriating if you were on Cincinnati. But with Burrow in tow, this team gets it done more times than not against Kansas City. And the best part about this bet to me is that you can get a 6 in the market. This was 3.5 in the summer. The look-ahead line was 3.5 before the week 1 games. Well, Kansas City beats Baltimore, covers against Baltimore, barely, by maybe an inch because of Isaiah Likely's foot. And we all watched Cincinnati lose as an 8-point favorite. Now they're getting 6, though. It's a different conversation. I wouldn't take 3. I wouldn't take 4. But now you're getting 6. So that's a number I would take. And the last bet is the that I'll talk about before I get to Brian Beachkofski is the Bears and the Texans over 45.5. I did bet the Cardinals -1, but we can move on from that. I just think the Rams hype is ridiculous, and they're down multiple linemen, and now Puka Nacua is hurt. Matthew Stafford's one hit away from that team being 5-12. But the Bears D is not as good as people think it is, because Will Levis will be either bagging groceries or playing in the CFL next year. I saw so many tweets on Sunday about feels like 06. No, it doesn't. 06 had Urlacher, Lance Briggs, Peanut Tillman, Tommy Harris. I mean, this is not 06. So the fact that this number has come down from 46.5 to 45.5, I think Houston's going to drop 30 on their head. And Houston's defense is also a problem. Anthony Richardson threw some home run balls. The Colts were able to run the football on Houston. Houston's going to be a very good over team this year. They're going to score a lot of points, but their secondary is nothing special. And I think Caleb Williams is going to have 2 touchdowns this week. One to a teammate and one to the other team. How about that? So that's a game I think is going to be 31-20, 34-17, 34-20. We're going to get points. And as we know, on Sunday night, what do the refs do? Flag, pass interference, holding, flag, PI. It's insane. Betting unders in prime time, especially with a guy like CJ Stroud, with all the deep balls he's going to throw, and same with Caleb. Good luck with the under there. So let me now add him to the stage and add him to the chat. The Chief Technology Officer at Rhythm. I said off the top the tool belt for sports bettors. I think I used that the first time we talked, Brian. And I think I also used it when you were eating a $27 corned beef sandwich at Circa.
Yeah.
I saw you. How would you describe Rhythm as we welcome you to the show?
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Sammy. So Rhythm came from a conversation I had with my co-founder where we said people want to have the analytics that is driving everything these days, right? People want to be able to originate and have a data-based approach to the game. And make it personalized on their own, whether they think offense is more important or defense. And right now, it was really hard for anyone to be able to do that. So we made a way where someone can come in and personalize a model and get predictions with every open line across WNBA, NFL, college football, NBA, college basketball, and even golf. So that's our goal, is making personalized data models for sports betting accessible to anyone.
So before we get into some of the things your models have spit out and some of the things you maybe like for tonight, I know you definitely have some projections for the weekend you're going to share with us. How has it grown since when the tree first went into the ground to where it's at now? Because every time I talk to you guys, every time I see you, you were out at Bet Bash again. Megan was out there. You're having big meetings with big people. Where have you noticed the biggest growth from when that tree first got planted to where it's at right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love this story. So we started out even before we went live to everyone. We started out like in stealth mode, just making predictions, tracking on your spreadsheet, just like everyone does, and being able to find that. Yes, when the models say that there's a bigger edge there, it wins more. So we've spent years developing that. Then last year we went up behind paywall for the first time and had some users come in and got a lot of user feedback, made some changes to things, made some things easier, gave some more information there. And then what was like magic, in January, we saw people really growing and loving it. And we were seeing amazing growth through the end of NBA. And now with the start of football season, we're seeing that again. People are coming in. We got a Discord community that's growing unbelievable, and the conversations happening there are amazing. It's just great to give a tool and hear people use the tool in different ways and fit it into their process. I love the way you call it a tool belt, because it really is part of that. It fits into whatever your process is going to be.
Well, and I think the ability for a lot of people that bet, we know the same people, right? The same type of people. They have kids. They have a job where they have to maybe not be in the office anymore, but be on Zoom at 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern and working all day and in meetings and Slack and all that bullshit. And they don't have the time. Forget handicapping games. They don't have time to make power ratings.
Right.
They don't have time to adjust sliders and models. And I think, for those that are on the fence about maybe taking a plunge with a company like Rhythm, which has a tremendous app, and you should check it out, RITHMM, beautiful app. The color scheme, the black and the orange, it's very Bengals centric, which I like for this week. But people don't have time to make their own models. And this is a tool that allows you to very easily build one from scratch, adjust it on the fly, and basically learn how to make adjustments. And that's something that, let's be real, people don't have time for.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Like I even had the technical ability to do the modeling. I just didn't have that time. So for us to be able to take that, put it out there so that it's all being run out on the server somewhere, and you don't need to do the work of like keeping the lines up to date, keeping the stats refreshed. We do all that slog and bullshit for you so that you can focus on the fun part. And that's what's great. And one of the things that we've added recently goes to your point about we don't have time. People are like, I don't know what model to do. Now we have a leaderboard where you can go on there, see the best performing models from actual track bets that are immutable. No one's changing their stuff afterwards to give themselves a good record. You can go on there and you can just copy the best user's model right now and get that in there. So you don't even have to build it. We can either do it for you through our Rhythm AI process, or you can just copy the guys off the leaderboard that have that track record of winning success with that model.
Well, if only I could do that in high school. Just look at the smart kid next to me and take his answers. Wouldn't that be something? Brian Beachkofski with us, CTO at Rhythm. We've got 400 people watching us live right now, and I know they want to bet because I've given some bets. You look like a smart guy. I know you're a smart guy. You used to work on those planes in the military and build engineering models and all that. So what are the models that you put together? What are they like for this weekend? You could take us to college. You could take us to pro. It could be a side, a total, a prop. What do you see coming to fruition this weekend?
Yeah, so great question, and I'm going to do a little bragging here on how things went last week with college football. So we had about 20,000 predictions tracked in Rhythm with a 7% ROI across all of those bets. So we had a great college football week. Season, that's across our whole season. So the first 2 weeks. So we're trying to build on that right now. Got a couple of games we like in there, my models in particular. One of the things I love about Rhythm is because it covers every game. You don't have to. I'm from Wisconsin, so I follow the Big Ten, but it's not just about the Big Ten. You can find all the matchups where there's value anywhere. One that I like, I got on earlier this week, is North Texas getting 10.5 with Texas Tech. That actually dropped down to 9.5, crossed that key number at 10. It's popped back up to 10.5. So if you can get that, there's some good value to be had there. So that one is one I like right away. Another one, I'm in Massachusetts now, so I can't bet it, but UMass going into Buffalo is getting 4. I think that'll be close. Neither team is going to light up the scoreboard on this one, I don't think, but we can. I think that getting 4 there, getting over a field goal for that is going to be a good matchup. So I like both of those, and like I said, our college football models have been doing great already this season.
I promise you, you are not studying North Texas the way that they are over at Rhythm. That's so funny. And I said this a long time ago because I've been giving picks out now in some way, shape, or form for 8 years. People are okay when you give them Alabama, right? And it doesn't cover. When you start giving them teams that they don't know where it's at or they never heard of, it's always bold to give a team that they might not know the mascot for.
Oh yeah. So
for NFL, Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go. Like I said, I'm from Wisconsin. I'm a Packers heart. My heart crushed a little bit when I saw Jordan Love take that hit. So I'm thinking about the Packers game, and everyone. Well, here's the reality about Malik Willis. He's had 8 real games in his NFL history. He's 31-61 and averaged 4.5 yards a reception with that. 3 interceptions and 0 touchdowns. I don't think anyone thinks the future of the Packers is going to be with Malik Willis. But rather than play him, I think I'm going to be paying attention to what's going on in the backfield in the running game. Joe Mixon ran 159 yards last week against Indy, and either Indianapolis is going to sell out to try and stop the run and make Willis pass it, or they're going to just get beat on the run again. Either way, here's what I'm playing in that game. I'm going to do alt spreads on Josh Jacobs, with him either going under 50.5 yards rushing or over 80.5. I don't see this playing out in the middle. I think it's either going to be an extremely bad running game or an extremely good running game, because there is no passing option. So either it works or it doesn't. So I'm getting positive money on both of those. Looking at that for as my way of playing the Jordan Love injury.
So that's what some people would call a Polish middle, but a Polish middle is minus 110 each way. You were playing.
I call it a butterfly spread,
which give you a nice plus price.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So you're saying he's either going to have about 20 yards or he's going to have 90, and you play those prices accordingly because the volatility is there, yes, which plays into your math.
Yeah, this is a variance play. Exactly.
All right, before we let you go and tag in my buddy Corbie, I don't want to put you on the spot. You don't have to say yes, but do you have anything for the Thursday nighter? It's Buffalo, Miami. We're about 45 minutes from kickoff. I forgot it was on Amazon Prime. I was losing my mind today. We need like 9 channels to watch NFL now. Bills, Dolphins, is there anything you like in this game? You can say no.
So we've been going back and forth about this. I think the biggest play we have in our users right now is actually Cook receiving yards over. I think the line is at 17.5. Saw it go 18.5. It's around there, but the over on Cook's receiving yards is a play that we've been talking about today. We actually make the game line right about 2.5, and you saw that in the betting action. It hit 3 and got knocked back down. There's just no support anywhere else. It's going to be a close game. So that's the play that's been bouncing around the office today.
All righty. That's Brian Beachkofski, CTO at Rhythm. Check him out on social. James Santori does a tremendous job with the social media and the marketing. They're on X. They're on Instagram. I believe they're on TikTok. I wouldn't know because I'm 35. I'm too old for TikTok, but they are taking over the AI part of the betting space, and glad to have Brian on this program. Keep doing what you're doing. Say hi to the crew, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks so much, Sam.
All right. When Brian tags out, we tag in the head honcho of Better Odds, Corbie Craig. Oh, you brought a drink. What are you drinking?
I know what I'm doing here, Sammy. I see what you're drinking. You're drinking a girly drink. I got the Bullet Diet Coke.
Oh.
It's actually okay. The drink. No, listen, there's a reason behind it. It is so. First off, Thursday is my Friday. If you watch the circles off, I thought this was pretty funny. It's like them doing what day of the week, like what they do days of the week. And if you're betting college football, we're gonna talk about NFL, but I got not much for you. But this is my Friday. This is the drink because I texted you on New Year's Eve. We were talking about something for injuries. It was like 11:30. I was like, yo, it's about to be midnight. What drink should I drink into the new year? It was a whiskey Diet Coke. So I got some Bullet. It's Diet Pepsi, but it'll get the job done.
I love that you call me out right away on my own show, and that's why I love you. By the way, I know now because last week it was my first StreamYard Live, and I have to basically push all the buttons and everything. I didn't know that I had the ability to show comments. And here's a comment from a guy named Corbie Craig. That's you.
Boy.
And it says Sammy P, the injury night. I want to start with this. How much fun is info, number one? And number two, when you get a tip like we got on Tuesday about Cam Rising, what's the first thing you do? Because you're a numbers guy. You have your numbers, but you also make your models. And it's very difficult to quantify, I think, how much Cam Rising is worth relative to the backup who's a freshman that's never played on the road, right? It's a very interesting conversation. Some guys would say it's 4, other guys would say it's 8. It's hard to really put a true number on it, but for somebody that always tries to solve for X, if you will, what's the first thing you did when you found out that Cam Rising might not play?
Yeah, it makes life a lot easier when you're not trying to figure out what you would make that number Thursday at noon when McMurphy posts about it. When Monday morning, when you just text Sammy P because he knows everything, it makes life a lot easier. You have a little bit more time to figure out what you want to do. But no, I think it's an interesting debate and one where we'll talk about this. But I model from a quantitative standpoint, also from a subjective standpoint. It's probably the only sport that I do this. I actually watch every single football game, and I have a group of people who watch. We all come together, take notes, and using that kind of like thought process, you can basically distinguish like what is a team going to do with that injury. Because you could say, like in the NFL, you could say Tom Brady's worth 2.5 points. We've seen this time and time again. It happens. We're pretty confident Tom Brady's worth 2.5. He's not. He's worth more, but let's just say 2.5. LeBron's worth 6. Like you could toss numbers for players because you've seen them throughout their career. But like Cam Rising, a weird debate because he has been in college for 8 years at this point. But usually you can't do this. Like you're guessing what this guy's worth. You're guessing what the backup is. And at the end of the day, you're making a gamble. You're taking a guess. But what you can do is like, from a logic standpoint, think, what is this team going to do because of that? Like an example is the BYU game. We'll talk about that if you want to. But in my opinion, in that game, and every time you said you've taken Utah State, I've taken it with you. But the main thing that I've taken is this over 43. I don't understand it. There's my website. But hey, listen, I'm here to talk football, Sam. We don't have to promote. I appreciate your promotions. I'm here to drink a little bit of bullet and tell you why. Damn it, I want you to bet some more Utah 43s. All right, listen. So the main thing that Cam Rising does for me is like, okay, let's think. This is a Utah team who we think is going to make the national championship, or at least make the playoffs, not the national championship. Cam Rising for the 7th year in a row gets hurt. So they have this freshman quarterback. He's Zach Wilson's brother. I found out last week. He stinks. So what can you do? You can get him the best reps he will ever get versus a Utah State team who stinks. Like they're not gonna be able to stop him. So then it's like, okay, do we burn the clock halfway through the 4th, which market probably anticipates with this number being as big as it is? I don't think they do. I think there's no reason to not let him throw as many passes as possible. So my number for the over is like, I think with Rising it was 47, and with Wilson it's like almost higher, which sounds crazy. But with Rising, they come off the gas. Like it
makes sense though. It makes sense because if Rising is in, I'm not trying to defend you here, but if Rising is in, they go up 21-0 and probably sit on the ball for the 3rd and 4th quarter.
Yep, well, we've seen it happen a million times. And then the greatest part about Cam Rising, because he always gets hurt, is you can go back to last year. They didn't have Cam Rising. They had 2 quarterbacks, Nate Johnson and the kid who is at Utah State right now. I cannot think of his name.
Bryson Barnes.
So you go look at that Arizona State game where they're sandwiched between, I believe, off the top of my head, I believe it was Oregon and Washington. You see Arizona State, everybody's like, hey, they're gonna sit on this clock. This is a weird game. Like, who cares about Arizona State? They won that game 55-3. Like, we've seen it happen. They need volume. So I'm on the 44. I'm on the 43. I took some 42.5 when I hit that. I think that if you didn't have Sammy's hot tip from the bartender on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, when he was right for about 4 days before it happened, the best way to play this angle now is the over.
Yeah, and of course that number came down when the rumor first started to circulate. We're talking 47, 46.5, and it has come down. I believe last check it was 43.5. I want to just throw a couple comments up here. I agree with this from Brewhand Luke. Yo, smash the like button. Hell yeah. Smash the like button on YouTube and on Twitter and on Instagram, which bear with me, I'm still trying to grow. This is from my buddy Rob, who I talk to every day. He's in my football family. We all have those friends that you talk to every day from August through the Super Bowl. And maybe some of them extend into March. And then you all take a break from each other in April and May and June. And I know you're betting baseball, but Rob is in my football family. he is definitely not sleeping because he's in
I was
the
about to
chat.
say we're getting Z's. I thought it was pretty high pace. We'll speed up the next one, Rob. We'll crank out a few games. We'll speed it up.
That was not to you. That was earlier in the show, Corbie. Don't get all defensive.
Okay.
And this is from earlier as well. This is from just timestamp it. This is from 7:17 before Corbie got on the show. From Scott Newman, Houston survivor ? Way I'm leaning in a Chicago populated pool. I don't think it's the worst idea. Look, I'm on Detroit. People will say you have to save Detroit for Thanksgiving. Detroit has fucked up so many Thanksgivings for me in my life that I'm so scarred from betting on the Lions. And I know it's different this year because they're probably going to be a favorite on Thanksgiving. But they have ruined. I can remember my grandma being like, pass the potatoes. And I am so mad because I just lost $550 on the Lions at the buzzer. You know, like it's just entrenched in me to not be a part of Detroit on Thanksgiving. So I don't care about saving Detroit. I'm going Detroit against Tampa because Tampa has multiple injuries in the secondary, maybe 3 starters down. They've got some issues on the D-line. And I know, Corbie, you're more of a college guy than an NFL guy, but the Washington Commanders, who Tampa played last week, Washington might have the worst defense in the NFL. So,
I hope so.
So when Tampa beats Washington and now has to go to Detroit and face that pass rush and Aiden Hutchinson, I think it's going to be a tall battle. So I hear you on Houston. The only hesitation I have with Houston, and I do have these teams on a document here in terms of when they play on the holidays, because Houston is a holiday team this year. I believe they play, let's see, here it is. They play on Christmas. So if you're in a league where you need to make different picks on Christmas, you've got Baltimore against Houston, and I think that game is in Houston. You also have Kansas City and Pitt. So always be aware of those Thanksgiving and those Christmas games. I didn't burn Houston because I kind of want to keep them for down the road, as we have 828 people watching Chicken Dinner live right now. That's Corbie Craig with his manly drink on the right. I'm Sammy P drinking a high noon after doing shots on last week's show, but I guess that doesn't matter anymore. All right, so what else do we like? You've crunched numbers on all these games in college. Hit me with another bet or two that you love.
Yeah. First, let's pull back to your NFL real quick. I'm not here to give opinions on NFL. Don't have enough. I took Giants in that week 2. I teased them up to 7.5 versus those Commanders. So I hope you're right on that defense. I also took Giants in week 1. That was wrong. That was awful. And we don't have to talk about that. That's why we stick to college football. Is there any game you want to talk about in particular? The games I am looking at are pretty gross, pretty normal. Actually, I got one for you. You talked about you being the injury guy, and this is an injury game, and the number seems crazy to me. Go down to the sleepiest, the snooziest, as your friend Rob would say. Put all the Z's when you watch BYU go face Wyoming. Worst game you could possibly choose. Give me BYU, Wyoming. It should be 40. I think I got 39.5, 40. I should have a rotation number for you, but I do not.
I got it. 201, 202. Right there on the screen.
Perfect. Get the over. What can we get?
40, get a 39.5 offshore. Yep.
Yeah, I like 39.5. A few things. First off, BYU is going to be without running back 1, running back 2. This is known. It's not some fancy Sammy P inside info. So what are you going to do? Are you going to hand the ball off to running back 3, or are you going to throw the ball? In most cases, I think, again, like I'm not confident that college numbers can optimize for scheme fast enough. I think BYU has to throw more than people are giving them credit for. On the other side, Wyoming, without running back 1, again, this is the 3rd week now. But they couldn't stop Idaho, who didn't have their starting quarterback. Like, this is an awful defense. Watched them versus Arizona State. Thought they sucked versus Arizona State, but also Arizona State has some pretty lucky plays. They have a pretty big quarterback. Like, he can throw the ball. It's not great. Don't get me wrong, but like, he can throw the ball decent. This number is like a number. We saw Army Navy last year. What was like 36. So 39 seems crazy for 2 teams missing their starting running backs. I took the over, and I will not be watching this game. I know you talked about the side there, and it looks.
Yeah,
like
I like the dog. I like the dog.
Steaming back down. Looks to be steaming. See some 9.5s now. Still an 11 at Caesars. I would agree. The only thing I will say is like the loss at Idaho looks really bad. and they're without running back one, which was a big piece of their offense. So maybe you put that into your projection, but let's see what I make this number actually.
I took 11 and a half. That was, to me, that was the ceiling. And I was saying earlier in the show that no wise guy on this planet is going to lay BYU minus 11 and a half. To me, that was the point when I knew it was going to come back. I didn't know it was going to be. I mean, look, it's 10 at Circa, it's 9.5 at Chris, 10.5 at Pinnacle. So different numbers bouncing around right now. But I was happy to send out this morning on Chicken Dinner 11 and a half. I just thought, Corbie, that it's not going to go any higher, and it's probably going to come back. What do you have numbers wise?
I'm making it 8-2, so I do agree with you. 11 seems like the ceiling. And with that, we'll go to a few quick hitters because I know my time here is limited. Let's crank out as many games as we can. Nobody wants to hear about BYU. The debate and the argument of the century, if it was like Pitt unders, it would be the most insane thing to bet Pitt unders at this point, and I would love a Pitt under. You talk about a ceiling. This opened 58.5, got steamed up to 60, probably right. Got steamed up to 61, steamed up to 62. It hit 64 this morning. Can I get a 64? Under 64. The threshold to 65, 66 are obviously really big numbers, but we saw the second it hit 64.5, it shot right back down. You see some like hanging 64s, but it's trying to go back to 63.5. This is a number that's moved 6 points. Like every influencer's bet the over. Every influencer looks at this Pitt team and they say, wow, this new coaching regime comes from Holy Cross or it's Western Carolina, and they like to push tempo, which I do agree. But if you watch the game for Cincinnati, like tempo isn't the end of the world. If you're inefficient, they barely won that game. It was a comeback win. I don't think that West Virginia cares to push tempo. They have a running quarterback. 64 feels crazy. Could this game end 65? Yes. But I think the probable outcomes for over are 65, 66. The probable outcomes for under, like 57, 58, 59, 61. I think we hit a ceiling here. Is it going to be a fun bet? No. Kind of like you always talk about, like buy low, sell high. And this is a sell after it hits 64. Every influencer has pushed it up, and I bought some under.
60, let's see. The best number you can get right now is a 64.5 at BetMGM, title sponsor of BetQL Daily, 9 to 10 weekdays on the Odyssey app and BetQL Network. 64.5. And I know some people don't think that there's a difference between book A and book B, but if you're going here, it's 63.5. You go here, it is 64.5. That is a massive difference. It's only a point, but around that 64, it's just,
I think
37-27. 37-27.
I think like the historical outcome of 64 is like 1.7, 1.8% of games. So like, I mean, you're talking a few cents on a lie. It definitely matters. Shop around. It's the easiest way to get an advantage in a game that you're going to need an advantage in.
All right. One more before we get to one more comment. We got this from Jared, who says, Corbie knows his stuff, does great work for the Bet US MLB show. I know you guys have done some work together. So thank you, Jared, for weighing in. Let's go one more, and then we'll say goodbye, and I can make myself a real drink. So we've talked about the under in Pittsburgh. We've talked about you liking, I believe it was the over in BYU, Wyoming, correct?
Correct.
And anything else that the model has spit out that you like? Let's find the number.
Let's see here. How gross you want to go? You want to go a major market that everybody's
nasty.
Going to watch?
Nasty.
Okay, I've got a nasty one, and I haven't been able to bet it into PPHs yet. Is how nasty it is. But we have 950 people live, Sammy. So I'm going to see how gross. Like, let's see how many markets have it. I won't tell you what the bet is. Go to Charlotte versus Gardner-Webb. Give me that number.
Lord on earth.
Oh, yeah.
I got Charlotte 11.5 and the total 48.
All right, let's do it. The under 48. Charlotte Gardner-Webb. Charlotte's starting quarterback out. I cannot think of his name. Zach Brown. Not Zach Brown. That's a band. What is his name? Charlotte's starting quarterback.
It doesn't matter. Spanky can name 5 players in college football. It doesn't matter.
So he was actually the last guy I looked up on Instagram because I wanted to make sure he was out. So let me make sure he's out. His name is Max Brown. I searched his Instagram to make sure he definitely is out today. So Max Brown is out. They play backup quarterback. If you watch that North Carolina game, there was like an 80-yard touchdown, which was the most explosive play I've seen North Carolina do in quite some time. They have North Carolina. This is basically a play on the idea that North Carolina is awful. And they ran up that number last week so much that this week's number is impacted. North Carolina has a quarterback in Harrell who is so trash, Sammy. If you go watch, like, North Carolina will get destroyed in any competent game they play this year. And yet they gave up 2 explosive plays to him, which is what pushed this number up. But I think that's more of just like a Charlotte trying to keep up the competence of, like, this is North Carolina. At the end of the day, it's an in-state rivalry. We'll win this game. Gardner-Webb just held James Madison to 13 points. James Madison already played Charlotte, so you have a pretty good comparable. This is a Gardner-Webb team who wants to run up any kind of pace, any kind of tempo. That's why you see an 11.5 spread. Charlotte, I genuinely don't think that they have the bodies for it. Like, we saw their coach Piff in the preseason say me and you were talking about it, but in the James Madison game, he's like, hey, we're going to be out half of our starters. Like, this just is a spot where Charlotte could very easily get up 10 and coast the rest of the way. They're using a backup quarterback. Their running back's decent. Their defensive line actually has surprised me, getting some push versus North Carolina. 48 seems like a ton. I would stop at 47, but the under 48 feels plenty fine if you have the one sports book that has it.
That is so good. The only way you could leave this show with almost 1,000 people watching live is a total play on Gardner-Webb and Charlotte. It's the only way this could possibly end, and you know that.
I agree. Also, listen, we weren't going to put him in the dumps, but we tried to have another guest in. He didn't want to come. He didn't want to hang out with the boys.
I know.
We'll leave him to the side. We'll get him one day.
Well, I'm just upset, and again, we don't need to name names, but he tells me, he goes, "Send me every quarterback tip." And the first one we get this year, he's gone for 4 hours go by. I go, "Where are you?" He's like, "I'm busy."
Also, listen, Sam, I'm going to overstay my welcome. I got to sit here. We got to talk for a second. We're at 995. We got to hit 1,000. When we hit 1,000, we're
at 1,000 right now. I'm looking at the board. It's 10:15.
Oh, sweet.
1,000.
1,000 people. I appreciate you. Listen, I say listen a lot as well, so sorry. But I am missing a baseball game right now to be on this. I took 30 minutes out. I'm going to miss the third inning of the AA Pensacola Wahoos game to sit with chicken dinner. And I could not be more ecstatic. So I appreciate you having me. Hopefully some people bet the North Carolina under and we get some wins.
Well, before you go, let me just give you one more quick plug here. This is where you can find our guy on Twitter. I know most of you are on Twitter. You're either watching this on YouTube or Twitter. That's Corbie right there. That's the Paris balloon. At Corbie B-O, C-O-R-B-I-E-B-O. He gave us a whole bunch of plays. One of them nasty. The others not so nasty, but the guy makes numbers, moves numbers, has a lot of good information, and the website is betterodds.co. So check Corbie out. And my friend, I appreciate you missing the Little League game you were going to go to, and I will catch you next time.
Perfect. I appreciate it, as always.
All right, that's Corbie as he goes. We will wrap up with just one more quick note on the plays. If you missed these earlier, these are all available on Chicken Dinner on Twitter. That's chickenxdinner. Didn't plan that out when I made the handle all those years ago, but hey, it is what it is. So 8-4 this year. So far, so good. We're going to have some winning weeks and some losing weeks. I went 4-0 2 weeks ago, 3-3 last week. It's going to be a long season. But Utah State plus 20.5. We bet that on Tuesday. Talked about it on Tuesday. Cam Rising not going to play. Michigan minus 23. Indiana minus 3. Wyoming plus 11.5. These went out this morning. A lot of these plays. That number has come down. Like the Bengals plus 6, the Cardinals minus 1, and the over 45.5 in Chicago and Houston. I keep hearing about how great this Bears defense is. Will Levis to CJ Stroud. That's a big deal. And also, don't sleep on that Titans defense this year. That defense is better than Houston's defense. So we're going to see Caleb Williams probably throw the ball around a lot more than he did last week. I did want to share one more thing before we go, and appreciate you. There's almost 1,100 people watching right now. You can follow on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram. I always have to show you the merch because people want the merch. These are the hoodies. This is the only thing we take money on. There's nothing else that's for sale. We don't do picks. We don't do service. We don't do any of that. These are the hoodies. These are the mugs. If you go to Teespring, look for Chicken Dinner, which I know on YouTube is tough. If you go to YouTube and type in Chicken Dinner, you get recipes and not sports betting. But you can change the colors. You can go green. You can go Carolina blue. You can go red. Those are the #1 sellers. And then we got all kinds of gear. The Fade the Bartender merch, the mugs, the OG Chicken Dinner t-shirt in all these different colors and the black and the red. So if you want to support the show, besides watching this, which is amazing to me that there's almost 1,100 of you watching right now, go buy a hoodie or a mug or whatever. And when you wear it to a football game this fall, you can rock the buck and people will come up to you and go, why do you have a chicken on your shirt or your hoodie? And you can let them know. So that does it for Chicken Dinner Live, episode 002. Thanks to Brian Beachkofski for rhythm, and thanks to Corbie Craig from Better Odds. We hope you enjoyed it. Good luck tonight, and good luck this weekend. And we'll talk to you next Thursday. Take care.